What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD interview. So real quick before we jump into this badass, amazing content, I want to give our sponsors a plug that make all this possible. So our first sponsor is www.perfectstormnow.com. Front-end lead generation, real estate specific lead generation software. It's a brilliant branding site, lead generation site. Not only do we provide you an epic, amazing site, we coach you for hours every single month, you guys. We have private mastermind groups where we walk you through and teach you how to be a lead generation machine. So it's not just a website, it's a coaching platform where we teach you how to become a lead generation and a lead conversion to client machine. Our second sponsor is my personal mentorship program, my 90-day mastery bootcamp, right? So recently with the 90-day mastery bootcamp, we have added our alumni program. It's a $50 a month program that you have daily access to me in our own private Facebook group, right? We have 2 monthly live sessions that are 2 hours long every single week. And again, you have daily access to me. We also have 2 live in-person events every 6 months. Every 6 months, we do a live event here in Phoenix Metro. They're 2 days long each event. We don't bring in speakers. There's nothing to sell. It's just hardcore masterminding, 20 hours of just hardcore badass content throughout those sessions. That's $50 a month. But in order to get into that program, you guys, you have to, the initiation fee, if you will, is the 90-day mastery bootcamp. We only want people in that program, real estate agents in that program, that know the process, that are going out there, that are getting results, know the process. So for the first time ever, we're allowing on our 90-day mastery bootcamp, splitting up into 3 payments. That program is $997. We're splitting up into 3 payments with no finance fee. So www.90daymastery.com. Promo code Live Mastery. There's only a few events left this year. If you have any questions about that event, shoot me an email, joshua@gsdmode.com. Also, make sure to jump into the private Facebook group. We just created a GSD Mode private Facebook group. It's a free group. So it's a place to make sure that you guys aren't missing out on any content. Also, a great place for you to mastermind and hang out with and be around other like-minded people. So anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and let's jump on into the show. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD interview. Every single week we interview top entrepreneurs and just straight up top badasses that are out there dominating their space. These are guys, these are guests, these are people that are out there choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and do epic things with this one short, brief life that we have. So you guys, today got a special guest on the show, a dude I'm really excited to have on the show, a guy that's doing massive things in his world and creating massive success. So today, you guys, we have Raj Bhaskar on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey Joshua, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, this is awesome, bro. Really stoked to have you on, dude. I know we were just kind of talking off air, man. You just got home from a road trip with your 6-month-old, dude. So you know, life's hectic for you, man. You got a young new family that you're got going on, plus business, plus all this stuff. Before we jump into what you're doing today, though, bro, I'm really interested, as with all of our guests, of how this journey began. So, like, rewind the clocks, dude. Like, high school, junior high, college, how did your entrepreneur journey start for you?
Yeah, elementary school, 5th grade. I was selling candy. I'd buy it at the bulk food at the Giant, the local grocery store, Jolly Ranchers, stuff like that, and just started selling for 25 cents, 10 cents, 25 cents, and then I continued that through 6th grade. And it's kind of interesting at a young age to find that when's the peak time to start selling those things, and you figure it out. And it's not necessarily something you're looking at. It's just, I was kind of profit minded at the time. So I started selling them like basically, a class before school got out, when people didn't have any access to food. Supply was low and demand was really high. People were getting hungry. Students, my peers. So I started bumping it up, and then I'd have top pricing during those times. I think these days I'd probably feel guilty about that. I don't do things like that. Demand-based pricing. That's kind of, I believe in it, but I don't know. I'd feel good about that. But I moved on in high school. I had a car detailing business. I think that was pretty common amongst kids. I shoveled snow. So everything I did was like kind of seasonal. Always kept something going. And then I sold sodas at the golf course. And so the local golf course would have a tournament there every year, and I'd make a few $1,000 cash profit off of that. Sell sodas for $1. I even went, I was Maryland based, and I went to Virginia just a short across the bridge to buy the soda because the county I lived in Maryland had a soda tax. So I went over there to get the sodas for 5 cents cheaper.
Hell yeah.
Like financial oriented. The weird thing about me though is it's not weird, but I never cared to spend the money. I just had this thing. I always wanted to earn my own. So my dad couldn't pay me to wash his car. He really wanted to pay me to wash his car because I was washing the whole neighborhood. And then I'd get around to doing his. I didn't take his money for it, but he wanted to pay me to do it first. I'm like, I have to go earn my own money. It was just something that was important to me. Both of my parents are entrepreneurs. My mom was an Avon lady when early on, and my dad he started his first job in the U.S. was drying cars at a car wash. Then he got his master's in computer science. During that, he was flipping pizzas, and in 1993, 94, 95, he made the Inc. 500 3 years in a row. And that started from the basement. So I think some of that's in my blood. And it's something pretty interesting that we talk consciously as a family. Now I have a 6-month-old that as part of our identity, we want entrepreneurship to be part of like our family culture. Not to force it, but that should just be like a thing that we kind of pass on, and that's part of our family values.
Yeah. Well, and I love it, man. And if we're just being real, right? Like if we really break down and just analyze the economy, there's 2.4 billion millennials. There's not 2.4 billion jobs. Like it's just the direction that things are going. So, no, I love it, man. Okay, so you always had this entrepreneur drive. Your parents are entrepreneurs. You got this drive. At some point, though, because what we see with a lot of entrepreneurs is, they have that spirit, but then they get conditioned by society to kind of go on the, hey, let me go to college, let me go get the corporate America the job, and then they find themselves making their way back. Did that happen to you, or was it always just full-on entrepreneurship?
So I always wanted to be an attorney, of all things. So when I went to college, I got into this. I went to GW in DC, so I didn't go too far away, and they had kicked off this new program, 7-year engineering and law program. So I was required to do 4 years of engineering and then pre-admitted to their law school that was #1 in intellectual properties law at the time. I just always wanted to be an attorney for some reason, but 3 semesters in computer science, I ended up switching into business school. I was actually getting the programs from the top 2 developers in the class at the time, and I was essentially running a business because it wasn't for me. Development wasn't for me, ironically, because since then, my businesses have always been software businesses. But I was supposed to go on the set track basically, and I remember even though I switched out, I was getting into business, and I was still thinking law school. And when I finally decided, while in college, I'm not going to do law school, I remember my mom wasn't too happy about that. Yeah. My dad was he was cool about it, but my mom wasn't too happy about it because she liked that set path. And over a semester, I convinced her that, don't worry about it. At the time, I was seeing very lightly a girl who was in med school, and my mom made a comment to me that, how am I going to date somebody in med school if I have no future plans? Yeah, I thought it was the funniest thing. Yeah. You don't have to know what's actually happening. It's just just some confidence that you're going to make it happen at some point. I worked for a wireless software startup right after college. I made it almost 1 year. I started getting into it with the CEO within 3 months, but I stuck around for a while, and I worked directly for him, and I made it almost a year. I was trying to make it a year, and then I went off and did my own thing.
So let's talk about that, man. So that transition, so you're working for that startup, and probably a lot of great experiences. Sounds like there might have been some negative too, but those are some of the best experiences when we learn not just what to do, but we learn what not to do. So you're seeing those mistakes. And so at what point did you decide then, hey, let me break off from the startup and go that you're an employee for and go do your own startup?
Yeah, so I think so after a few months, maybe even slightly before, I was already I didn't like things I was seeing. So with the company I was working with and with their CEO, and I was working directly for him, I started seeing values through him that I didn't like. And personal values to me always translate into business values, and I don't think they're separate. Like when people say it's just business, like that just bothers me because we spend most of our waking lives working. So
Yeah.
you got to have solid values. You can't have like I just don't think you can have two sets of values, one for inside your house and one when you walk out the front door. It just doesn't resonate with me. And I actually thought even I was only 22 at the time, and I thought at that time if I stick around here, like I might become like that. And but I still stuck around just to see because company was going in the right direction. I liked the work I was doing, but I saw the values kept getting worse and worse. There was greed and fraud and all kinds of nasty stuff. And so I think there was some of that, and then I overheard a few things that to me didn't resonate. You know, like not taking care of partners or screwing them, and maybe those were partners that I brought on, and I just thought it was a good time to get out, and an opportunity had had come across. My dad had mentioned an opportunity to me, and I ended up doing that, and that was my first software venture.
So when it comes to software, dude, because you went to business management, so I mean you've doesn't sound like you went to computer science, or I mean you're not a developer yourself, right? You just have always had a big interest in software.
Yeah, so my dad had a software development services company, and that's where he hit the Inc. 500 a few years in a row. And he did a lot of government contracting. That's a common thing out here in the DC area. And so I think there's something from that. My mom was actually a programmer for for some time back in the day after Avon Lady, and so there was some, you know, there's definitely some of that. But you know, I knew how to do a little, but not to create a product or anything like that. Like I
Yeah.
barely lasted 3 semesters. When I did it, I did information systems in the business school, but that was pretty easy compared to programming. So yeah, it was just something that when I went to the startup, like a lot of startup companies were tech at the time, they still are quite a bit, and that really appealed to me because that's where I knew I could learn a lot. If I'm working for the CEO, I can learn a lot, and that was my thing, just to early on to focus on learning as much as I can because you know people always say, "Oh, I'll do that later on," or "I'll have more time later on," and that's like the exact opposite of reality. Like you won't have more time later on. I have a 6 month old, and when you talk about get shit done, I mean, I thought I was already getting shit done. Like I have to take it. I'm taking it to a whole another level right now. It's it's amazing. Like when you start thinking a little differently, where you want to at least accomplish the same amount of items, but now you have to do it in even less time. How you prioritize and stuff. But yeah, so software. I think because I was looking for startups, and I graduated in 1999, and that was pretty much like the tail end, right? Market crash in 2000, and I got to have a little bit of fun before the market crashed. And then I think because of that, like I've always looked at I'm only on my second venture, but my first one was 10 years. And that's not a quick flip. When you hear tech, people always think like, or they talk about the quick flips, right? The big money making quick flips. And I'm more the type that I like building the long term business that's not a house of cards, that even if you exit, like my business, prior one, I sold it 6 years ago. And still to this day, all the employees and customers are on board, right? So that's so many years ago. That's like long term value. That to me is more interesting than how much the company was sold for.
Yep. I love it, man. So let's talk about, because you know a lot of our listeners that are listening are in that space of, hey, I'm working in the corporate world, but I want to transition to entrepreneurship. Like I know it's for me. I'm miserable doing what I'm doing. You know, and they're listening to the podcast to gain that insight and the know-how and you know maybe the guts to
Yeah.
go the confidence to do it. What were some of those initial obstacles, dude, when you made that transition to now going from corporate to now you owning your own shop that you didn't really expect, that kind of shocked you, but they were obstacles that you had to overcome? What were a few of those?
So didn't expect. I mean, because one thing I was expecting, and I think a lot of folks underestimate, is how do you So I looked at how do I keep my personal costs low, like personal, meaning like I was living at home
Yeah.
with my parents. Like you have to make a sacrifice. Like a lot of times people they want to go after this passion and do this entrepreneurship thing, but then they don't want to cut certain things to make it happen. And if we look at our biggest expenses, it's your home, and then it's food, and then it's entertainment typically, right? And that's and depending on with your kids, like if you're sending them to school, private schools, things like that. But getting your costs down, out of the gate, so you don't have all these other pressures against you. And I think beyond that, like the biggest thing is two things: customer acquisition, right? I think people really underestimate marketing. How are you actually going to get your customers? Like no one's waiting around for you to call them to sell you your stuff, right? Or sell you their stuff. They're not sitting around like that, right? So that ties in a bit to like the actual value proposition. Do you actually have something of value? So there's the customer acquisition side, and then there's the recruiting side. Eventually, you're not going to be able to do all this stuff on your own. And it's tough, like chicken and egg. Okay, do you get the deal first and get some cash flow, then you go hire some people? Or do you hire people because you need those people to go get the deal? Pretty challenging stuff. Those were the biggest items for me. Because I wasn't a developer, right? So, if you're a software developer and you start off creating a product, that in some ways that's better or if you're in real estate and you want to become an agent and you're creating a unique product, right? It's your service that's the unique product. That if you can provide it directly, you have an advantage right there. But once you have to rely on other people, you got to account for that.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I love that you brought about personal expenses because it's something that we see all the time get out of whack. People see you today and they're like, oh, man, we sold this company, made all this money. Now you got this huge other new successful company. But they don't look at the sacrifices that you made, dude. And they're real, right? Like one of my mentors at one point comes to me and he goes, Josh, the difference between you and I? And he goes, the difference is you're trying to prove to the rest of the world that you're wealthy. He goes, I'm actually wealthy. And I was like, oh, stab me in the heart, dude. And he goes, but you got to learn to operate at 10% of your income and invest the rest, right? So you can get through those tough times. And so let's walk through that, dude, because, okay, in the beginning it's easy. We're eating top ramen because, dude, we have to. But then you got revenue coming in. How do you not go out there and play the keeping up with the Joneses game and keep strict and disciplined, when all your boys are buying all this fancy crap and you can, but you got to stay disciplined? How do you mentally get through that?
Well, I think part of it is like what your ultimate vision is for your venture, right? What goals are you trying to achieve on the business side? And also, I think ultimately life goals. But everyone who knows me closely, like I'm very business focused. And I think everyone close to me has gotten used to that over time. Like I joke sometimes, but it's serious. Like I often find the weekends are disrupted for me.
Yeah.
They get in the way. And it's something I'm learning. Like, I have a kid now. And, well, even before that, I was married. So I always said that the toughest part, I joke with my wife, but it's true, is, and I don't, she doesn't take it in the wrong way. It's the toughest part for me of this second venture is that I'm married this time around. The first venture, I was single the whole time. I got engaged right before exiting. And that's a tough thing because now I have other people in my life and more responsibilities, right? And I have to spend time there, and I want to spend time there. But I love business, like I love building stuff. And I go all in. Like I go like 80 hours a week is nothing. That's like when I meet folks who are trying to do it in 40, like I'm fascinated, right? If they don't have growth. If they have growth, I think that's great. But if they're having trouble growing and they're only putting in 40, the first thing I say is you gotta first make sure you're doing the right stuff, but you gotta put in more time. Like I know there's all the other models, but first you gotta make some stuff happen, build a base, and then put in more time.
Yeah, man, I've never known anybody that's self-made that didn't just have to put in the work, dude. There's no way around it, man. You got to put in the work and make those sacrifices.
Like I was working when all my like during mid-20s, like when everyone's out partying.
Yeah.
I remember so many times where I'd show up at like 1 a.m. like right when like last call, and not even get a drink because I don't really care. I cared about like getting up early the next day and getting back on, but still trying to be social because I didn't really date that much in my 20s.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, probably towards the latter half, but like I was just focused on work, like because I had these goals for like family goals, and my goals were not to make money, like just to make money. My goals were to have the freedom to have as many kids as my future wife and I would like, with not knowing who my future wife would be, but that at least we had the option to have as many kids as we want. That was the purpose for the money, like for just building up something of value so that I have that freedom. It took us a while just to have one. Like it was challenging. So it took like about 2.5 years before the kid popped out.
Yeah.
And he's healthy and everything. So we're really lucky. I don't think we're going to, I used to talk about 5 and then I lowered it to 4. After that, I'm not sure. So I think right now we're talking about 2, but still I wanted, like, that was really my motivation, was to have like, just have whatever we needed to have that option. Right? And that was, my close friends understood that. Other people would think like I'm just talking shit or something. I'm not. Like that was my thing. That's what I was interested in for the rest of my life. It's like family. Friends will always be there, right? So that was my purpose. And actually, right now, what's kind of challenging is I probably have enough to cover all that for the rest of life, regardless of how many kids. And so that's not my motivation right now. So it's kind of challenging because I still, like, I got to crush it. Like, I have people relying on me. Like, the way I motivate myself now, I have a team. I've got a young team, and I need to make sure they're all, like, they all kill it. And so that's what I talk about as my motivation, is because it'll be life-changing for them.
Yeah.
Like, for me, because everybody has a stake. So for me, it won't be life-changing. I enjoy it. I know I have to be a role model for my kid, but he's 6 months. He's not going to see some of this stuff for a while. But my co-founder is my younger brother, and the rest of the team. That's my new motivation. So it's the challenging part is, like, when at home, like, my wife could easily say, "Well, what's the big deal? We don't really need it." But that's not my MO. My MO is to crush it every day.
Yeah, no, I love it, man, and we'll get into your new company here soon. But I love just being in this space, dude, because it's so raw and real, dude. And this is what a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of people jump in and they'll talk tactical, but it's like, dude, that's so little what success is. It's all the shit that we're talking about that really makes or breaks it, right? So, and yeah, you're right. You get to a point where it's bigger than you. Like, you might be, like, kind of down, depressed, but it's like, it's not about you anymore. It becomes so much bigger. So I love that you brought that up. Now, a question I have, dude, is because this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, and I get this question all the time on the show of like, hey, man, I mean, I'm willing to go out there and grind these hardcore work days, but I can't get buy-in from my spouse. So you met your wife, like, at the cellular company, like, after you'd made it, things were good. So she wasn't in that startup phase, right? But now she's witnessing that. How do you get the buy-in, dude, for her to be like, okay, hey, it's cool for you to go grind 18 hours a day? Like, how do you get that buy-in and stay congruent together on that?
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. So I like, I think early on is more challenging, and I have the buy-in. I don't know what the secret sauce is. You have to keep talking about it, and for me, having successful venture is not optional. And also, when I sold my last business, I worked for the acquirer for a little bit over a year and a half. And I actually had no requirement. So I'm that type of guy who, that was part of the deal. I'm not part of the deal. I will do whatever makes sense. Like, I want to make sure everyone's taken care of. I made sure of that. But I refused to discuss myself because it was a business that stood on its own. I ended up staying there a year and a half because it was a good fit. But I also knew, like, I can't work in a company, really. I can do a transition, but it's just not me. So if you put those two things together, and I know those aren't optional for me, then it helps to get the buy-in. But then, you have to give up other things. And so, like, I basically work and I work out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, other than the home time. Like, in terms of like, and then my wife and I, our son just turned 6 months, so we're like starting to get back out again, like maybe once a week. But like sometimes we go, to go out, it's like much more effort than
Yeah.
like if it's a pain in the ass sometimes. You got to get the whole extended family involved, and but that's we try to use that as a good time for the grandparents to hang out as well. So we're still doing it because we have to get out, otherwise we'll become hermits here. But the thing, like talking, is you can't. I don't know. So I want to say, like, if you're married, and I've only been married for 5 years, we've been together for, let's say, 7. We knew each other for many years before, but I don't see how you could have a success. I don't see how you can be married and have a successful venture without buy-in
Yeah.
from your spouse. Like when you have a family, like the whole family has to be bought in. Like it requires the whole household to support everything. I know that even only being 5 years in, and my wife jokes sometimes about, anytime someone jokes, I've said it a few times now, basically indirectly, like there's truth to it. Like, I had a crazy week before last, because it was a week before we were launching our newest product, and at that time she was actually joking about, what it feels like to be a single mother. But she was holding the fort like completely, because on top of that, when I came back from being out of town for a week, I was under the weather.
Yeah.
So it was like 2+ weeks that I couldn't help out with the baby at night. I do the night session where I from 6:30 to 8 roughly. So I take them, I give them a bath, which is a lot of fun. I mean, so because I'm like a comedian during that whole time. Like you have to keep him distracted and laughing the whole time, and so I do that, and then he gets the full body massage. Because it helps him with his sleep, and then feed him, and then we have to hold him up straight 15 minutes so his food can digest properly, so he doesn't spit it all out, and then put him to bed around 8, and he'll sleep for like 10 to 12 hours straight.
Yeah.
And he's been doing that for the last couple months, so she's got him on a great system. And so I'm supposed to do that because that's the time I get. I don't do anything in the morning. And because I work out, like working out is important to me. So my wife definitely takes the load, like big time. And I'm still trying to answer your question, which is like, how do you get buy-in? I think the only thing I think I've given so far, direct answer, is like talking about it. I think a lot of people just don't talk about it. And I've made clear what's not optional, like what's a must-have for me. So like I used to play basketball full court 3 hours a time, 3 times a week, and I think I've gone maybe once a week now. It used to not be optional for me, but that's not really a must-have. I mean, I love it and I want to do it, but I can't go out like 3 times a week, 3 hours, and then also work out in between that, and then not be around. So I'd like to say balance, but I know consciously that I'm taking the lion's share of like being free to go do this thing. And so some part of that is definitely unfair. So and I'm consciously thinking through like, I still think like overall that's beneficial to us and our kids and what that'll become. And I think she's taking the brunt in the short term, and like I keep saying, like it's not gonna like be for that long. It's not that like we'll have the venture for a long time, but it's just that we're at that stage where we're putting the core team in place. We're only 15 people now, and to get it to that was a big thing. I think when you get it to 15, 20, that's when you start having, you hit a level where, you don't have to do like 80 every week. Maybe it's like 75.
Yeah.
But 5 hours, that's one extra hour each weekday. Right? That's a big deal. That's a lot of time together.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, dude, with communication, right? Just
Yeah.
getting clear on why you're doing what you're doing and involving the other person. And I think, too, it's the whole saying out there, opposites attract. I mean, us entrepreneurs, us drivers, yeah, we're kind of selfish, dude, and we kind of have that, like, selfless partner that's that support system, which becomes huge, dude. So, coming down to your company, when did you know it was right to sell it? Why not hold on to it? Because you sell it now, you go start another venture. Why not hold on to it? Like, at what point did you know that the right move is to just unload it and then eventually start something new?
Yeah. So I had the business for 10 years and 2 months. That was when we sold it 10 years and 2 months. And really, I'd say it was like a year before, maybe a year and a half, when there was a major inflection point on the technical side, technical and value, I'd say, where our platform was turning from a SaaS platform, software as a service platform, to a transaction platform because we added integrated background screening. I happened to be at a client site and saw them doing a lot of paperwork and complaining about a particular process, and they explained to me. I inquired what was going on, and they were talking about background screening. I did some research, and my previous business was in affordable housing. Our platform managed about 500,000 units across the country, a couple million residents. We were doing around 200 million in monthly rental payments, and that's for subsidized. If it was just market rate, it would have been around $1 billion a month. And so we had very good sized clients, major cities around the country. But so anyway, I found out about this thing. I did research, and in the traditional markets, they already had that, but nobody had done that in affordable housing. And I hooked that up and tested it out with a few clients, got a data partner on board, and clients loved it. And we hit the win-win-win. And the win-win-win being, so we're using a data partner to do the screening itself. We integrate it into our platform. The customer wins because they got a much lower price on the transaction than they could get elsewhere. But they also save so much time because it's completely integrated, right? So you're just eliminating paperwork and adding automation. And then, of course, my company and the data partner each shared in some of the revenue. But it was win-win-win, which was key. Because when you have win-win-win, you can knock it out of the park. When everybody wins, it's just a no-brainer. Everyone's happy. And that kind of changed. That was a major inflection point. I didn't see, when I looked ahead, I didn't really see any major inflection point coming in the next 5 years. Right, so we were already doing things. We had nailed down all our processes. We had rolled out the new platform. We hit all the major milestones we wanted to hit. And the business was strong on numbers. We had excellent reputation. And then the company that acquired us still has half of all U.S. apartment buildings using their software. They also have excellent reputation. And I hit it off with the founder when we first met, and it just it made sense. And that's why our employees and customers are still there, right? So many years later, because it was the right fit. For me, it's very important that everybody's taken care of. My customers, employees, everybody. I don't care about. I just don't care about money like that. That's why I talk about purpose. It's much more important. People, I mean, anyone who wants to make money can go make money, but you gotta feel good about it. And I always feel like you have to deliver value. I can call on any of my clients from my prior venture. In fact, my new venture, it's 5 of us from my previous venture in time, right? So I have guys on board, engineers who previously worked for me, who are making a lot less than they were previously making. That's those type of relationships right? Lifetime. To me, that's much more important, because those things go on like even after I'm gone, right?
Yep.
So, uh, yeah, I think that was really the main thing. I didn't foresee anything major coming in the next 5 years. I mean, the business would continue to grow, but there wasn't much new that we could do in that space.
Yep. Awesome, man. So okay, so you sold that company, stayed on for 18 months, and then you just saw that the opportunity was right to jump into this new venture. First, dude, let's talk about what the company is, what you guys do, and then and why you knew that was the right space for you to move forward to.
Sure. Yeah, I actually, my last day at Yardi, the company that acquired us, was the Friday before my 35th birthday.
Yeah,
That's
nice.
when I knew it was time. Like I was there for some time. Everyone was happy, and I was turning 35. So I'm like, it's a round number. The zeros and the fives are the ones where you always get an additional injury, and it's also time to just assess things. So I was like, working in another company where I didn't have a stake didn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of folks working in other companies. I just think you should always have a stake, like a meaningful stake in the company. Like if you're gonna add value, then you should have a stake. So yeah, my new venture, it's called Hurdler. Summer Olympics, a few years ago, 4 years ago. It was the inspiration for the name because I was literally watching the hurdles, and I had already been thinking about names and what I wanted the name to exude, and Hurdler without the E, HURDLR, happened to be available as a .com, and so I grabbed it, and it was basically how do you help entrepreneurs get over their obstacles, and that we were going to develop a mobile app or two, and we wanted the app to automatically get them over these obstacles so they can focus on growing their business. And it was kind of cool just watching the Summer Olympics recently, when the hurdles were on, especially when the USA women sweeped it, like gold, silver, bronze. Like that was so tight, and yeah, it was pretty awesome. But so that was 4 years ago, and it's Hurdler is a mobile app for any entrepreneur or freelancer to easily manage and track all of their business related finances and taxes. And I think the key part about that is a lot of folks like solopreneurs, freelancers in particular, have a lot of 1099 income. Real estate agents have a lot of 1099 income, right? So I have this, I call it the true profit formula, where profit in general, of course, is defined by your sales minus expenses, right? Or revenue minus expenses. But I think for independent professionals, those running their own businesses, I call it true profit because I think you need to be keenly aware of your tax obligations. And so our app lets you track all that in real time. Like we literally wrote a real-time income tax calculation engine for all 50 states and DC in the US. So our app will tell you any second what you owe in taxes and what you actually get to take home, what your true profit is after all of that.
Yeah, I love that, man. Because I'm a dude that I have 5 other companies now in addition to my real estate company, but that's where I got my start. And I hit it out of the gates. Selling a lot of properties and having a lot of revenue come in, but I didn't know how to manage my finances. And I got hit, dude. I remember one year, like, I'm 40 grand short of paying Uncle Sam. And I'm like, what do? I had to refinance my house, dude. I'm in my mid-20s making all this money and spending it faster. I'm making it. And an app like this is so critical because most sales guys, let's face it, they love the sales, but they're horrible at tracking in their finances. So yeah, kind of walk us through that. So a lot of our listeners, probably 85%, are in real estate, right? Entrepreneurs in the real estate space. So how would a realtor use this? Like how would they start plugging in? Just kind of walk us through what that benefits would be and what it looks like.
Sure. So we made an app specifically for real estate agents, and we called it Profit Dash, and we just partnered with or announced our partnership with Keller Williams, one of the largest brokerages or franchises in the country, and they had Mega Camp recently and we launched Profit Dash there, where for Keller Williams agents, they literally download the app. The next thing they do is they log in with their Keller Williams ID, their Keller Williams email basically. And when they do that, it automatically pulls all their commissions and listings from January 1, like all the way back to January 1. So they get year to date right out of the gates. And then it calculates all their taxes right out of the gates. You can sync your credit card, your business credit card where you have your expenses. You can sync that with our app. We support about 20,000 different banks, and you sync that. And as those expenses are incurred, you'll get a push notification on your phone. It says you had this $10 expense at this Starbucks, meals and entertainment, and you just check it to say, yeah, that's business. And so it's really that easy. And then it starts tracking. It starts tracking right out of the gates. Like, the unique part for real estate agents is that we're doing a profit and loss, a P&L, in real time at the listing level, right? So this app also tracks your mileage. So let's say you take buyers around for several hours on a Saturday, you can actually tag that mileage and that time to those buyers, so you know that when it's all said and done, you finally got the buyers finally bought a house, you know what you actually spent against that commission, right? So there's two aspects of that. There's the expenses, which you can deduct, which will increase your profit, but it's also the time. You need to know what time you spent, so you can really analyze like how you should be spending your time moving forward, right? Because that'll also help you become more profitable. And that's something we're going to be opening that up soon to all real estate agents, like to the whole industry, because even Keller Williams believes like this is something like it's important for the whole industry to thrive, right? It's not something that should be limited to one franchise. It's got to be like, we want to help. Like, that was a key thing. Like, when I partnered with them, that they agreed that we want to help as many entrepreneurs as we can.
No, I love it, man. I mean, it's the saying out there that the path is in the math, right? But so many entrepreneurs, man, they don't know their numbers, right? They don't know their true cost per acquisition. They don't know their true ROI per lead source. Yep. So that's amazing. So as of this point, it's available for Keller Williams agents, but other agents could probably still use it. There's probably a workaround, right? Because you can download it as just an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So we have the Hurdler Entrepreneur app, and when you download that, you can actually say that you're a real estate agent, and the user experience will be adjusted for real estate agents. And then when we launch, when we open it up, like, we'll transition you over. But even in Profit Dash, they could sign up in there for early access, and also identify their brokerage, because basically, like, the more folks that sign up for a particular brokerage, that'll probably help the brokerage get it earlier. But yeah, they could download the Hurdler app. That's just HURDLR. It's in Apple iTunes and Google Play. Like, it's on both. And this is all built on our engine that the first app we put out there was for Uber drivers, right? Because they were all 1099, and most of them didn't even know that they had tax obligations. Right, because they're just signing up to make some extra money on the side.
Just a college kid driving at night, not really knowing.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, they weren't making as much as they thought they were, but now they know, like, at least they know, like, what they're actually earning, so they can plan accordingly. And we have over 50,000 Uber drivers using the app. And we've gone through a full calendar year, right? So this past tax filing season, we got the thumbs up and positive reviews from all their tax filers and CPAs, which was a big thing before we opened it up to real estate agents, because we want to make sure all of that was set. And it's going well. Like, Profit Dash is like, I mean, the feedback we're getting, people are excited. And I think we're going to see great things out of that. I think you're going to see real estate agents becoming much smarter because of it.
Yeah, I love it, man. I think it's huge, right? It's easy. It's right on your phone. It's always with you. Literally, it's probably just a few clicks every purchase or everything that you do, and it sounds like kind of like a mint almost for personal finances that it tracks your internal finances with the credit cards. And yeah, I love it, dude. So, give us an idea. I know you said it's available on iTunes and other platforms, or you can go to the website Hurdler, which will have a link for those of you watching and listening. You can link right below to go get it. What's the cost, dude?
Yeah. So right now, it's $200 a year or $20 a month.
Yeah, it's
So it's like I think it's like 16% off or something if you do the annual. Um, we were leading with annual because I'm actually like more in general, like I'm a fan of monthly because for any folks familiar with accounting, you would recognize the revenue monthly anyway. So it's not to get your cash flow heavy up front. But thing is, when you're in our research, like we're a financial app and you're supposed to be doing financial tracking. So you should plan to do that long term to get value out of it, right? Because you don't generally need a financial app for just a month or 2 months. You should be committed. So I always say to look at the reviews and make sure you've got one that you like, and then just go all in. Like you have to be dedicated, learn the models, because in our app, like you can set your goals, right? And then track against those goals. Like you can go backwards from your gross commission income. Like if you want to hit 1 million, right? We partnered with Keller Williams at first because they had the Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
yeah.
So they have all the models, right? So we built this on top of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent chart of accounts and everything. And so because they're pretty innovative on that, and I'm a big fan of that book, and I'm not a real estate agent. I love the book because you could apply that to any type of business.
Yeah.
The models they talked about, it's very simple, simple to understand, but of course requires dedication to execute. And so the idea was really to automate what they already educate on. So you learn those things and then you just automate it. So yeah, 200 a year, 20 a month, and then we give $1,000. Your first 1,000 in tax deductions, you can track for free. So it's kind of like a free trial. But like for those who don't have much in expenses, like that trial will last quite some time. Because the idea is on 1,000 anyway. The way we pick that number is $1,000 for most folks equals $200 in post-tax savings. So that was the idea behind it. Of course, like mega agents, they'll hit that in probably half a day.
Yeah.
But we might play around with that a little bit because we want people to feel comfortable overall. I'm that type of guy. Like I feel pricing should be part of the customer experience. I think that's very important. Like I always talk about inside my company, the difference in feeling I get when I see my Netflix charge on my credit card. It's like $10 a month versus cable. And I've tried both Verizon and Comcast, and Comcast like is just it's one of the worst companies on the planet. I know I've recently read that they're actually trying to improve customer service now. I've seen ads on buses like, hey, we're actively improving our customer service. I'm like, the bus ad doesn't make up for the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's too late.
Like it's great that you're gonna try and do it, but like how was that not an initiative from day one? We have live in-app chat in our app because in my previous business I had a whole customer success department, and I wanted to do that here too because entrepreneurs need help. Like when they need something, they need something. When I need something, I need it, right? So live in-app chat, or if you have a question, you can just tap the icon and start chatting with my team, right? And that's how we built a better product because we could refine it so much quicker when we're engaged with the users. So yeah, I want we're targeting a minimum of 10x return for our users, right? So they should save at least $2,000 a year using our app in actual expense deductions. Ultimately, time is going to be the biggest thing. Time value, like they're going to save a lot of time. Like we've seen this from the drivers and other freelancers that are using our Hurdler app. That's what I'm most excited about. It's hard to pitch that up front often because a lot of people pitch that as their, a lot of apps and companies and just in different sectors, like they always pitch, oh, it's going to save you a lot of time. And I think in ours, like we're reinforcing the actual dollar savings first, and then people will see. So we have a tagline, the functional tagline of every dollar counts. But our working tagline inside our office is every second counts. Because that's like when we're doing development and we're designing product, like every single second matters in this app. And I think it should matter in entrepreneurs' lives, like when we're talking about balancing and other things, like, when you lose a weekend, when you had to go do something that you really didn't want to do, that's 2% of like your whole year. That's a lot. Yeah. Like, that is a lot. It's nuts. Like when I've seen this thing on Facebook recently said like 17 Fridays to Christmas.
Yeah, that's gnarly, dude.
I told that to my wife, and she's like, "Oh my god, that's crazy." Like, yeah, and I reminded her, said that's why I get upset sometimes when, like, if I feel like I lost a weekend doing something I didn't want to do, because that's 2%. It's 2% of the whole year of weekends. Like, it's crazy. But that's the thing. Like, that's why seconds matter, minutes matter, and things need to be conscious.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, man. I love it. I love that you brought this up, in my coaching platforms. I mean, I'm always talking about the same exact thing. Like, start paying attention to seconds, start paying attention to cents. Most people are talking about, oh, well, it only takes a couple minutes here and there. I'm like, dude, that very quickly compounds to hours and days, and same thing financially. And just speaking in the real estate space, man, I always tell agents if there's two secrets to this business, there's no secrets, but if there were to be, it's knowing your numbers intimately and running the lowest overhead you possibly can. And your app solves that problem for $20 a month is an absolute no-brainer. And I'm not with Keller Williams, I never have been. But dude, Gary Keller by far is the most brilliant guy in the industry. Right? I mean, I love the guy, read all of his books, follow his training, and if he's behind it, it's got to be legit. So those of you watching and listening, man, make sure to go check it out because it's critical. You've got to know your numbers. The path is all in the math. I know it's not the fun, sexy thing that we all like to go out there and do, but that's where the success happens, man, and knowing your numbers intimately. So I love it, bro.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not sexy, and I haven't ever done sexy stuff for my businesses. I've invested in sexy businesses, but I don't do it on my own. I like that long term, like the nitty gritty, like the boring stuff. But it becomes sexy when you, like, after you get it and you start using it, it becomes sexy when you have your real time profit in your pocket. Like, you start looking at it a lot more often.
Yeah. Well, and if people, dude, if they knew, I've got a software company too, but more on the lead generation side, and if people knew the true cost that you had into developing this, $20, dude, I mean, it is such a steal. People that even blink at it, I'm like, I just want to shake you. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? Buy the damn app, dude.
Yeah, we wanted to. That's the thing. Like, we wanted pricing that lends itself to referability. We didn't, because we're going after 1 million users, right? Yeah. And we're on the path there. So we, like, my prior business, like, pricing was basically like a progressive model, like the U.S. income tax. So like smaller agency paid less and larger agencies paid more, and larger agencies could invest quite a bit more into our R&D. And it's the same thing. Like, here, we're going after entrepreneurs who are trying to make it, right? We know how the model works. Like, entrepreneurs create, a large set of them create small businesses and create jobs. So we have to enable them. We can't hurt them right out of the gates. We got to enable them, help them perform better. That's really like that ultimate mission. And then tying back to the name, like, just getting rid of all this stuff that doesn't add value. We can do some of that, and then we can make it actually add value. Yeah. So, yeah, we don't want we want to help them grow. Basically, that's the main thing. And I love seeing like the positive reviews, and also on our support, like saying like my team's taking care of them. I love that. It's in my prior business, like when we used to go into town or when we had our customer conference, like and see customers on the street and bump into them and get hugs and kisses and everyone's all excited. That's what you want. Like that's what you like feel good about. You know, I was in my Uber app one time. I was in an Uber one time and I asked the guy how he tracks his finances, and the guy he said that he has this app to track it. And I was like, "What's the name of it?" He's like, "I don't remember the name." And he's like, "Let me show it to you." I was like, "It's okay, just you can just drive safely or whatever." And he pulled it up, and it was my app. It was Hurdler app. And when I told him that I was the co-founder of Hurdler, and he was taking me to the Hurdler office, he was so thankful. Because on the Uber app, we're not charging anything because they don't really earn that much. And so he was just so thankful. He actually wanted to pay me and then not charge me for the trip. I'm like, no, you're doing this for side income. Like, just leave it. But he was so thankful that what we're doing. That's what I want, really. Like, I just want to provide value, and have an excellent reputation. I think that's something that's much more valuable.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you guys absolutely are, man. So last question about Hurdler that I have. Do you have it set up? Because a lot of our listeners might have 3 businesses, you know, right? So, I mean, is it set up for where I can manage multiple business under one app, or is it having to buy an app for each business?
Yeah, so it's set up you can manage multiple businesses within one app.
Awesome.
So our ultimate vision was like the modern entrepreneur has multiple income streams. Like there's just no doubt about that. Multiple income streams. We have folks that are like freelance developers, like software developers who drive for Uber once in a while, and they put their apartment up on Airbnb when they're out of town. They're managing all 3 of those things in our app separately, like separate P&Ls for each one. Right. So that was our ultimate vision. Like, you have several things. Yeah, you got to be able to do it in one because you need to know as a person what your total consolidated business finances are, what your total P&L is, and then P&L at each business level. That's where you can ultimately make like the best decisions, because you might have one of those that it's currently at a loss, but strategically, like you really believe it's gonna skyrocket eventually because you're doing things strategically. And then you could see that you can hold the fort because across your 3 businesses, you're profitable, even though that one isn't. But it's good to see all of it. Yeah.
Well, and so often too, what we'll see in businesses is you might be doing 4 things that are working, but one thing might be bringing you a 700% return, and this thing's bringing a 400% return. Well, like if you could dump all into the 700% return, just because everything's working doesn't still mean that it's a smart strategic business move to be doing them.
Yep. Definitely.
So I love it, man. So, okay, dude, just a few questions. I know we're running long on time here, and I know you probably got to get jamming, man. I know it's late where you are. You're a few hours ahead of me here on Pacific time. What personally, dude, for you personally, because we find all the time that good becomes the worst enemy to greatness. It's so easy to get caught up in this, all things are good enough, get comfortable. I can just kind of chill out and just, not level up. Like, what keeps you, dude, always leveling up, never accepting good enough, and always going after greatness?
Yeah, so a couple of things come to mind. First thing that comes to mind is in my workouts. So my brother is 9 years younger than me, and he's my co-founder, and our office is on top of a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
And so we compete. He's at least a half a foot taller than me. And even on the basketball court, like my parents started doing much better financially as he was growing up. And I mean, I still had plenty of things, but he got excellent basketball training, and so he's really solid. But I try to keep up. And then we go hard, like anytime we're playing together or if we're working out together. I remember the last one we did before I got sick. It was pretty hard, and he was leading the way, and then I was pushing him from behind. And then we were talking about afterwards that they were basically just pushing each other because it's like good mix of competition and camaraderie. Work-wise, outside the gym, um, I'm in a couple of business network groups that are pretty hardcore, where a lot of successful entrepreneurs in there, and I think you got to hang out with folks that are really killing it. It's like even when I play ball, like I prefer to play with folks that are better than me. It's fun sometimes to play with some that aren't, but the only way to improve is to hang out with better players, right? It's an easy way if you have a competitive spirit because you want to keep pushing it, like you want to keep moving forward. So those are at least like my two tricks. They're kind of related. Basically, you got to go with people that are stronger and more successful than you. Part of your time, you got to hang out with them.
Yeah, it's said in business that you're a result of five people that you spend most time with, and it's like, dude, if you're hanging out with five broke people, you're gonna be the sixth broke, right? So, love it,
Yeah.
man. You could tell, dude, like you're a guy that is obviously a student of the game. You're a guy that's always looking to level up and grow. And with that being said, I'm sure that you take self development very, very seriously. What does your own personal self development look like? Because I mean, now you got this business, you got your 6 month old. It's probably hard to squeeze that in, but what does it look like for you, and how do you make time for it?
Yeah, so that's something that I'm learning to do better. So early on, I would um, go to some conferences, and I don't think I was going to the right ones. I didn't read um, as much as I should have. My reading consisted of Business Week, Fortune, and Forbes, um, but religiously. Like I was always up to date, so I had a breadth of knowledge across all businesses because I always tried to take things that some big companies were doing and try to apply it to my little business. Just try to extrapolate. So that's how I stayed sharp. But now with my groups that I'm in, we do a lot of knowledge sharing sessions. So that's how I do that, and also reading. So like I think my favorite book right now is the One Thing by Gary Keller and
Yeah,
Jay
that's a
Papasan.
good book, dude.
Because you can read that like anytime you're foggy or you're looking for something, and I don't know. To me, that one was amazing because you know because of what Gary Keller's One Thing was, and what that did for his company, and you could extrapolate so much from that. Um, and yeah, it's just people get caught up in all this minutia a lot of times, and I think if you're destined for like greatness, like, and if you already know. Most people know if they're confident, they know if they have what it takes, right? A successful company, like even a multi-billion-dollar company, I'm always fascinated. There's like 10, 12 people on the management team, right? And like when a company like HP, whenever they hired or fired a CEO, the stock would move 10%. That's one person out of like, I don't know how many they have, like 100,000. Um, so I always said, like, if you get the smartest people around, you should go after something big. We're going after something big right now. My last venture, we were helping communities, and that market, I mean, it was great, like mission driven, but the market was only so big. And I knew when we were doing new venture, I wanted to go after something big, and helping entrepreneurs is something big. Like they say like a third of the workforce, in the next 5 years will have side gig income and start going independent. That's the trend. So it's something big. It's something that multi-billion-dollar companies are going after. At the end of the day, what does a company has? It's their team, and it's just people. And people have 24 hours, 7 days a week. So part of it is, okay, who's going to put in the most time? And do you have the smartest people so they can get a lot more done within each hour? And then you probably need a little bit of cash. You should go after something big if you can get all that together.
Yep, I love it, man. I love it, dude. So, so just with what you just said there and that answer that you said, man, just made me think of another question that I really want to ask you because I know you're a guy that's really dialed in. You couldn't create all the success that you've created without that amazing team, But let's say you're a startup, dude. You can't necessarily afford top talent. How do you go out there and find that talent and recruit that talent when you can't afford what your competition's out there paying?
Yeah, so if you're solo, if you're starting off
Yeah,
solo,
either solo or just a small startup with a few people, whatever that looks like. But like you're kind of bootstrapping it, dude. You can't go pay the guy 300 grand a year. You're like 150 grand a year.
yeah, so I think if you're solo or you're a couple people, whoever that person is or that role you need filled, you've got to sell them on your company. Like you should be able to sell them, as crazy as it may sound, to work for free.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't get like someone with a family couldn't necessarily do that. Maybe they could, but you have to sell them on your company, and they need a piece of your company that's meaningful, that they could do that. My top folks have all taken 30 to 40% pay cuts from what they were previously doing, but they have skin in the game, and they love it. All the interests are aligned because I sold them on the vision, and myself, past history, and where we're headed and what they're going to gain from it. They're going to come out ahead no matter what, because the experience they're getting, like, there aren't too many mobile software developers out there, experts, right? There's limited supply, so when you become that, you're in hot demand. So either way, they don't lose anything, but they're giving up short-term cash, like, no question about that. So I think you really have to be able to pitch, and you're going to have to be able to do that anyway. But I think there are plenty of people out there who want to join startups, and they're willing to take pay cuts. That doesn't mean they're the right people for you, but you should be able to convince somebody. If you can't convince someone to join your team, I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to convince a customer to buy your product.
Yeah, and I think a lot, well, not all of it, but a lot of it aligns with, like you said earlier, man, is you got clear on your core values from your last company. You kept those. You took care of your people. You stood up by them. So now you've kind of you developed that trust, dude, where people are going to follow you. And I think that people just need to understand the importance of that, man. Just honor your word and your core values, and I love that, dude. So I started this podcast, bro, to go out there because there's so much information out there, right? There's all these gurus and these, whatever, with all this information, and a lot of smoke and mirrors. So I'm like, well, let's create a medium where we can go out there and interview the doers, guys like yourself. They actually talk about exactly what you've done to build what you've built, that are in the trenches, they're actually out there doing it to give our listeners the information they need to go out there and create the epic life they want for themselves. So with that being said, man, do you have any last words of inspiration, advice, motivation that you'd like to leave our listeners with so they can go out there and create the epic life that they know they truly want and deserve?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One of my favorite sayings, and I don't know who said it, but if your business isn't growing, it's dying. And one of the aspects of that is, especially if you have a team, so not just finances aside, of course, if your business isn't growing, the point is that eventually it's going to erode. But if you're not headed in the right direction, which is basically up and to the right, it's very hard to retain your team, and it's even harder to recruit new people, right? So you can't keep that critical mass and then move forward. So you have to be planning ahead. You have to be looking ahead. I think that's a key thing. But then, the second part is really knowing what you're even going after. You have to be clear on, just making money. I'm telling you, that is not, like I talked about earlier, for me, even at a young age, my thing was I want to be able to have as many kids as I can, right? And we know the costs associated with that are pretty stupendous. They're ridiculous. especially if they're going to go to college. I don't know. I mean, we have 20 years from now. It seems like those models might change a bit. But that was my thing. So it wasn't that I just want to make a shitload of money so I can go party at the club or whatever, or have nice cars or something. It wasn't anything materially. So you have to have like a deeper purpose. Everything is so much easier then. And yeah, my final thing would be like, if your business values are different than your personal values, I beg you to get those aligned. Like, people see through that stuff. No one wants to do business with people that are just transaction oriented, that just do things for money. Like, you'll feel better if you align those things.
Yeah, love it, man. Powerful words. Couldn't agree more, brother. And I know time's getting long, man. I mean, we're behind you, dude. Since we started, man, I saw it was sunny. I've seen the sunset, dude. So I literally could pick your brain for hours and hours and hours, man. This has been such an awesome interview. And real quick to our listeners, you guys, I end every interview with this. But information without implementation is really just the start of delusion, you guys. It's taking the information that we learn, take action on it. That creates power in your world. You guys were just I mean, there's so much just amazing, different piece of information that was just dropped on you guys. Make sure that you take something that you learned today, go out there and apply it into your world. Go get the app, dude. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. We're going to have a link below. At least go check it out. Highly recommend that you guys try it. There's nothing more important, whether it's real estate, overall entrepreneurship, than knowing your numbers, you guys. Something that I truly believe in. So go check that out. And again, Raj, man, this has been such a massive honor, dude. I really appreciate you being here, brother.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time, Joshua. I appreciate that. Like, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been killer. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time.